Hello. So I thought I'd make a short video kind of detailing some of the, let's just say, policies or events that have taken fold within the first week or so of Trump's presidency. So let me just say that this is going to be a hard presidency for Trump supporters, simply because just within the first few days, they already have y'all trying to defend Nazi salutes and concentration camps. We're in for a ride. But let's talk about some of these policies, right? So I remember going on record saying on multiple occasions that America has a favorite demographic, and the farther away you get from this favorite demographic, the more that you start to, let's just say, struggle within this nation. That the further you step away from that favorite demographic, the more barriers you run into. Now, this is an example. Some of these policies are a perfect example of what I mean by this. Now, for clarity's sake, the favorite demographic of the United States of America is a heterosexual white man. Anything other than that faces challenges. The farther away from that you are, the more challenges that you face. So let's just say pretty much all of these policies that are going into effect will only benefit that favorite demographic and specifically the rich of that favorite faction. Not only will they only benefit them, but they will instantly be a detriment to people who are not in that favorite demographic. So we start out with some things that happened on day one. You have the rescinding of the Equal Employment Opportunity Act of 1972, which was pretty much a part of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This was an anti-discrimination act, an anti-discrimination law, which prevented employers from being able to discriminate based on race, ethnicity, color, religion, gender, or sexuality, because those have nothing to do with the effectiveness of doing a job. These were put into place. You have to understand history, because that favorite demographic was making it hard for people who were not that favorite demographic to work and have jobs, so on and so forth. This act prevented you from being able to be fired because of any of those qualities, or to be rejected a job simply because of those qualities. So no, it didn't make black people get jobs just because we were black. Absolutely not. No. It didn't just give people jobs because they were gay or because they were trans. Not happening. No, never happened. What it did, it stopped people from being unfair in the workplace. That's gone now. That's been rescinded. He rescinded an act that was written by Biden that actually helped to create equity for Black and Hispanic Americans in the areas of education and economics, meaning starting to get the wealth disparity between our cultures and start to close the gap between us and that favorite demographic. He rescinded that. He said, absolutely not. Go back at the bottom where you belong. Next, we have and this is in no particular order. This has been a crazy week. So we have a new legislation where the only two genders that are going to be recognized by the federal government will be male and female, man and woman. And a lot of conservatives, a lot of Christians, a lot of people who are anti-LGBT are cheering for this, and they don't realize that sometimes when dummies are in charge of laws and definitions, you run into funny stuff like the new definition for man and woman, which none of you read. See, reading is very important. If many of you had read Project 2025, we wouldn't be in this predicament. But too late to read it now. The new definition for what a man and a woman is comes down to what they are at conception, meaning the new definition of a woman is based on the conception of that which would become the smaller cell, or for man, that which would become the larger cell at conception. So For those of you who don't know much about biology or anatomy, none of us are male at conception. We don't become scientifically male until around 6 weeks, when the let's just say our organs flip inside out and we take on our male organs. Before that point, everyone is female. So to my male Trump supporters who might find this video, I want you to know that Trump just gave you a new gender. You are now a woman according to his new definition. I thought that was funny. Next, we have, let's talk about the prescription drug costs. The Biden-Harris administration ended up putting in an act that capped the prices of prescription drugs. Now, I have a very strong stance against pharmaceuticals. However, I do understand that they still save lives. You don't take something away and not replace it with something better when people are relying on it. That's just evil. So what happens is, well, he killed that bill, which was preventing them from raising the prices. So your insulin, which was down to $35, is now going to shoot up to around $600. Have fun with that. Also, they slashed and killed the research for cancer. So no more cancer research. So those of you with pre-existing health conditions, those of you with cancer, Trump supporter, friends, family, citizens, hopefully y'all don't have cancer, because that's about as far as it's going to go. No more cancer research. Just a few days ago, well, yesterday, right? We woke up to the news that he had frozen government aid. Every form of government aid, whether it was a grant or a loan, got frozen. And this was, for example, you have your Medicare, your Medicaid, Head Start, Section 8. You have FAFSA. All of these different things that people need, right? All these things that people are relying on in this tough economy, snatched right from them. Food stamps gone overnight. Now, I believe that it did end up getting overturned. It did end up getting stopped. So if it hasn't already, those will be coming back. But just the idea that it happened already, yikes. We have gender affirming surgery being restricted to no one under the age of 19. Now, while I somewhat agree with the idea of considering it's a very important choice, if someone's going to make that choice, you should probably be a bit more mature before you make a decision like that. I also have to present the reality that this wasn't a problem that we were dealing with in the States. Yeah, kids weren't having gender reaffirming surgery at 9. It's not happening. So pretty much a bill was created to stop something that wasn't happening already. So it was a non-factor. We have the pardoning of the January 6 rioters. Now, this one I found interesting because, well, Trump said that these weren't his people. He said this was BLM. He said this was Antifa. This is what we were being told for all these years, only for him to get in the White House and release them and pardon them. We're going to come back to the January 6 rioters. I have something else I want to talk about. Let's talk about how he fired the heads of TSA, the Coast Guard, and Aviation Security Advisory Committee. Fired all 3 of them. How does that manifest? Well, that manifests in us having a helicopter hit a plane, and we haven't had something like that happen in decades. I'm going to come back to that. Just to kind of fuel some more of the racism, I'm not fueling it. This is your president. These are the things that are getting signed from on high, right? Just so you know, it has nothing to do with legal immigration. He don't like Mexicans and black people. Some of the proof of this is, well, they removed the Spanish website for the U.S. government. It means if you speak Spanish, they don't even want you to know what's going on in the government. Just removed it. Not just that, they also deleted the legal migration app that many people were entering the country with. I've heard many people say, well, I don't mind if they come. I just want them to come in legally. Well, this was a legal way that people were gaining their citizenship. They were going through an app. They were getting their appointments. They were getting their documents, so on and so forth. So people who already had appointments to come in and gain their citizenship, gone with the snap of a finger. Yikes. Talk about some of the holidays that are getting taken away from, at least on a federal level. You have Black History Month, Women's History Month, Pride Month, Holocaust Remembrance Day. That one's interesting. Martin Luther King Day. Yikes. Juneteenth and Women's Equality Day. Remember that favorite demographic that I brought up earlier. For some reason, there was no, getting rid of Christopher Columbus Day. None of that. Getting rid of Thanksgiving. No, none of those things, right? Everything that has to do with Black people, women, and gay people, very targeted demographics in the nation. Even talking about how, well, they're doing something very illegal in the federal government, which is punishing people based on who they voted for and who they supported before the election. And they're being asked to prove when their MAGA revelation took place, meaning the moment that they decided to become a Trump fanatic in order to keep their jobs. And if you vote against any of the things that they're doing, well, they're trying to fire you. That is highly illegal. This gets rid of the idea of checks and balances. The benefits of these checks and balances, and even having people in the government who don't agree 100% with you, is in case you decide to do some nonsense, you have people who are willing to call you out on said nonsense. This keeps our country from becoming a dictatorship, which, well, y'all will get to see what that's like soon. Now, thinking about the Equal Opportunity Employment Act that came from the Civil Rights Act of 1964, it reminds me of a quote that I saw from a gentleman named Jack Pozo, who is a right-wing conservative, let's just say broadcaster. I don't want to give him too much credit, but he spoke to the idea behind what, well, Black people have been saying this since Trump ran in 2016, which is that they're trying to take us back to the 50s. And he said, if you want to return to the 50s, you have to repeal the 60s. Yikes. So yes, 60 years or so of civil rights down the drain, right? This in no way, shape, or form is a good thing for the people who exist in the country that are not white men. So one of the things that I wanted to go back to, like I promised that I would, is the pardoning of the January 6 rioters. And this is why you know that the campaign and what's going on has nothing to do with righting wrongs or bringing about justice. It has everything to do with creating more chaos, and it's backed by fascism, it's backed by racism, it's backed by misogyny, it's backed by bigotry. This is one of the reasons that you know so, right? When it came to our Latino immigrants, many of the crimes that are happening in the country get put on them, and it's not actually correct. They say that our crime rate is up because of illegal immigrants. That's not true. They say that fentanyl is in the country because of illegal immigrants. That is not true. Trump has even gone on record on video saying this. So don't just take my word for it. In fact, everything that I've said in this video is something that you can go read for yourself. This isn't brand new. I didn't have to struggle to find any of this. All of this is public knowledge. But one of the things that he said on video just a few days ago is that you can identify a good Mexican from a bad Mexican just by how they look. You could just look at someone and know if they're a criminal or not. That is pretty much just the textbook definition of racism. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is all the things that he accused Mexican immigrants of being is exactly what he just pardoned. Proof of this, people who like proof, many of the January 6 rioters that just got pardoned are dead already due to DUIs and other violent crimes. The other thing that happened to many of them is that they're back in jail just that fast because they were not reformed. Already, they got accused, Mexicans got accused of being a culture and a country, a people of sexual predators, of all this horrible stuff. But many of the January 6 rioters were very much so exactly what he accused the Mexicans of being, and they got loosed back into the streets. So these are some of the funny things that you run into. And I call it silly because this is what happens when you let a dummy behind the wheel of the car. You have someone that doesn't know the difference between an asylum seeker and someone from an insane asylum. Calling shots, making definitions with no information. Now, I'm a person that believes in common sense, but I also understand that you kind of have to know how things work in order to have some level of common sense. The way that I initially think about a thing isn't a fact. It's barely a hypothesis, right? Facts aren't the same as opinions. You're kind of taught that in kindergarten, but I digress. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about is the ICE raids. That was something else I wanted to come back to. We were told, not that I believed it, but we were told that they were only going to go after illegal immigrants, specifically those who were violent or who were criminals, right? That was the idea that was presented to the people. Now, everyone with a brain knew that was a lie, because just within this first week, we already have people who are legal United States citizens being harassed and detained by ICE, specifically those of Latin descent, regardless of where your Latinicity descends from. You have people from Puerto Rico, you have people from Honduras, you have people from Mexico, you have people from Brazil, from the Dominican Republic, you have people from Cuba who have legally gotten their citizenship, being detained and taken somewhere. Not just that, but outside of the Latin community, you also have people who are Native Americans. Navajo people are being detained by ICE, and this is their land. You also have, there have been a few cases of Black people, just regular old Black people from America, 19th generation, we've been here, getting detained by ICE as well. And I'll tell you this, them going in and raiding schools is a cover up for trafficking. Understand they're not just going to go in. If they're making these mistakes with adults, they're going to make these mistakes with children. So yeah, have fun. More than the illegals are coming up missing and are being taken by ICE. This is something that's been reported on by ordinary people, right? Now, what I also found interesting, which is one of the reasons why I can say it has nothing to do with actual immigration and everything to do with racism, is because he has never spoken against the illegal Irish immigrants that we have or the illegal Russian immigrants that we have in the United States, nor the illegal Asian immigrants that we have in the country. No smoke for them. In fact, he went on record years ago actually encouraging Russians to come over and give birth on the soil in order to gain that citizenship, which is the same thing that he's demonizing Mexicans for. Funny enough, he's also a birthright citizen himself. His parents weren't citizens when they got to the country. So call a spade a spade. It's just racism, boss. Now, speaking of that, you actually have the formation of concentration camps. One of them is being built in Texas. Our governor and senator have already agreed and have sanctioned it to be built. So that's where your tax dollars are going. You also have Well, he just said on video yesterday that he's going to try to take them to Guantanamo Bay, the people that he's just went and captured, taking them to Guantanamo Bay. That is a concentration camp, and there's no other way to look at it. Like I said at the beginning, y'all are going to have a hard time, this being to his supporters, trying to justify all these things at the same time and still keep the illusion or the appearance of trying to be on the side of righteousness. Y'all gonna catch hell this presidency. Now, if we remember some of the promises that he made before the election, and I'm saying his promises, everyone with a brain knew he wasn't going to fulfill these promises. Now, one of them was that he was going to lower gas prices and lower grocery prices on day one. His words, not ours. We didn't put that demand on him. He said it was going to happen day one. He also said the Ukraine and what's going on in Israel, in Gaza, and what's happening in Ukraine would be over day one. In fact, he said the moment that he wins the election, it would be over. Not even when he got inaugurated. But once we get to the inauguration, he's supposed to be day one. He said day one. We didn't tell him it had to be day one. He said that. And as you can expect, well, we're on day however many we're on. And yeah, neither of those is finished. In fact, he stopped government funding to other nations, specifically the African nations that we were sending our money to. And people are like, yay, he took our money out of those places. But no, it really just stopped us from being able to help the people in those other countries that needed it. But he didn't stop sending the money to Ukraine and to Gaza or to Israel. So yeah, our main two, the main two locations where most of our tax dollars are going, he didn't stop. Speaking of just still going into the isms, right? You also have the idea of DEI. Now, DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the idea of it is that, well, you can't just have a room full of our favorite demographic. You kind of have to sprinkle in people from outside of that. So if you're a woman at all, you fall into DEI. If you're not white, you fall into DEI. If you're not heterosexual, you fall into DEI. And the idea that's presented is that either you have work ethic or you have diversity. And this is disrespectful to all of these people groups, specifically because we have always outworked that favorite demographic. My ancestors specifically worked for free for a few hundred years. So yeah, we've always outworked y'all, outperformed y'all. That's always been the case. In fact, even in the modern day, not too far removed from the Jim Crow era, we still have to work twice as hard to get half the reward. In any case, we have to be exceptional, and that favorite demographic gets to be mediocre. That's been the way it is. DEI has never benefited Black people. In fact, the statistics came out and showed that we only made up 4% of DEI hires. The largest percentage of DEI hires are white people, specifically white women. Now, I'm not the only one who has this experience. Shoot, many of us have this experience that fall into just outside of that favorite demographic of heterosexual white man, where they would have you train their favorite demographic to take your position just because they want their favorite demographic to be the face. Back when I was a manager, they used to try to get us to hire white people. Specifically, they say, y'all have too many Black people, y'all have too many Latinos, y'all have too many thises and that's. You don't have any white people. You have to go out. You got to hire a white person. Don't hire nobody else unless they're white. And then we'd struggle. We'd finally find a white person. We'd hire them, and then they'd quit because they couldn't handle the way the business that I was working at actually ran. So yeah, it bit us every time. But that was something that our higher ups used to demand us to do. Now, mind you, when it came down to actual diversity, my former job, we had Black people from all over. We had Latinos, we had Asians, we had Native, we had everybody working with us. Male, female, we had straight, gay, we had all types of people working for us at that time. So diversity wasn't an issue. It was just everybody but that favorite demographic, specifically at our location. All the other locations were mostly favorite demographic. And our location actually outperformed it. Now, this is just a personal story. I'm sure many of you have the same story of being qualified for a position and watching it be given to someone nowhere near as qualified, never qualified, underqualified, just because they fit within that favorite demographic archetype. So that's all that I'm going to share for today. So this has just been like a week or so of Trump's presidency. And like I said, he already has y'all trying to defend this chaos. Y'all would be easier to respect if you didn't try to take the moral high ground. If you're going to be a bigot, just be a bigot. If you're going to be a fascist, just be a fascist. It is what it is, because what happens is y'all make people who are genuine look horrible when y'all claim to be of the same demographic as them. Actual Christians are pissed at what other people are doing in the name of their God. For example, you have, Christians getting mad at a Christian bishop for teaching the message of Christ to a president. What else should you share in the face of a president? Should you give them a different message? Are you supposed to worship the president instead of your God? Maybe that's what she was supposed to do. But yeah, maybe he's just used to people that kiss up to him, but she just preached the gospel. Matter of fact, I know my MAGA Christians might come across this. Let's do a quick Bible study. Y'all like Bible studies? Let's do a Bible study real quick. So I'll give you 2 verses, right? Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy. And that is Proverbs 31, 8 through 9. And then I have for you, I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. And that is Matthew 25, verse 35. I know y'all are very unfamiliar with actually reading anything, specifically the Bible. Y'all claim to read the Bible. Y'all claim to want to put the Bible back in all these places, but it doesn't seem to be working in any of your churches. Y'all aren't reading it. Y'all aren't going by it. This is your Bible. So do what you will with that. Also, for my MAGA people, let's pray together, right? So this is a prayer I have for y'all. May everything that he does touch you directly. May you feel it. May it impact your home. May it impact your family. May it impact your life. May you feel this one like you haven't felt anything else before. Yes, feel this one. May the same fear that the targeted demographics feel be something that you share and experience. May the same mistreatment, may you also feel that too. Again, may everything that he does affect you too. In one way, shape, or form, may you feel it with us. Ashe. Now, let me say one more thing and then I'm done. Egg prices and gas prices are going up. Remember? Yeah, that's what I was going to say earlier. Yeah, he said he was going to lower them. They're going up as a result of his policies. Those tariffs skyrocket. And they haven't even went into effect yet. Now, we were warned back in November, December by a lot of the companies where we get our groceries from that they were going to raise their prices if he got elected and those tariffs get implemented, because it costs more for them to import their goods. Because what happens is if you raise the price on them to send us stuff, they just raise the price overall. So we end up paying for it. That's what's going to happen. That's what's starting to happen. Same thing with Canada. He puts a tariff on Canada. Canada raises the price of oil. We import our oil. Y'all are going to have fun, right? Don't let me spoil y'all fun. Feel this one. Like I said, Yes, that's it for me. That's all I got for y'all today. This has just been one crazy, chaotic week of Trump's presidency. So, yeah, till next time. Later.